the first thing they do is they take a big, huge hunk of it and they just throw it down on
Exactly.
their, yeah.
Exactly. Awesome. And that's what we're trying to do here. Maybe this is
Recording
kind
in
of like
progress.
love it. Thanks, Randall. Yeah. So maybe this is like we can think of this as forming that initial ball of clay. And so cool. I think we can jump into this thing a little bit of a smaller group. But like I said, definitely want to have this be something that we can kind of co-create together. This is like a starting point, but would love feedback at the end of the session. It's going to be rocky, so you'll have to bear with me. It might be a little bit too heavy on structure, but again, these are like the things that we want to get feedback on here. But I guess to jump into kind of the objectives and goals here, again, at a high level, we're trying to experiment with a little bit more structure on these discussions to be able to actually work towards some concrete outcomes with our time together on these Saturdays. Specifically, what we're working to do is collaboratively identify and build a shared understanding of some wicked problems. And then hopefully this video can provide some instructive guidance for anybody that might be new in the community looking for some guidance on, what is a problem statement, and how do we think about those, because that'll be mainly what we're looking at today. So Chad, I see you're getting into the Miro board. Is this your first time in a Swarm session? You know how to kind of navigate around here?
Yeah, I'm familiar still, learning every day new stuff, but it's not confusing to me.
Awesome. So won't spend too much time there. We've got the speaker balls and stuff there. I think with the three of us, we can use those if we want, but I'm thinking we'll just kind of keep this open. If we had 10 people in the room, the turn-based thing might make a little more sense. But for this, just the three of us, by all means, if I'm rambling or you just want to jump in and interrupt me. So kind of, I guess the way this is laid out is kind of in a horseshoe around this. So we're first going to look at just some initial thoughts that I pulled together on collaborative problem sensing, why there might be some benefit and value. Sounds like we're all in agreement here, so I won't spend too much time there. We'll kind of look at how this fits into the Catalyst lifecycle. Have a couple resources here just describing what makes a great problem statement, how do folks around the community think about this, so have some materials brought in from both idea scale and some of the documentation around the community. And then once we've got that common understanding of kind of just what is a problem statement, what are we thinking about, how does it fit into Catalyst as a whole, we'll together agree on, okay, where do we actually want to spend some time focusing and thinking about problems, narrow our focus a little bit by selecting a fund category, and then actually get into some ideation, a little bit of a collaborative refinement activity, and then try to align on, do we have maybe one or two main problems that we want to really drill down on, maybe start to identify some use cases or opportunities on that wicked problem we've identified, and then that'll be kind of where we wrap it up. Not sure how much we'll get through, but would love any feedback along the way. I'm like, hey, we're lingering too much. Go faster, go slower. Gaps in here, anything. But like I said, this is an experiment to kind of see, with a little bit of structure, can we still have this be open, collaborative, and be interactive, while try to get us a little bit more aimed towards having some concrete outcomes coming out of these conversations. And hey, what's up, Drake? Saw that you jumped in a second ago.
What's up, buddy? Sorry, I was trying to get something to drink.
All good, man. All good. Yeah. So jumping right into this thing. So at a high level, kind of what we're talking about here is problem statements. The very first piece of the puzzle, in order to get to your solution, your proposal, you got to figure out what's the problem you want to try to address. And so I'm thinking of this as kind of sitting within the submit proposals stage of Catalyst, that front end where we're starting to put in ideas. And some of my own thoughts that kind of led to the genesis of the circle. Been thinking a lot about, I think it's kind of silly that in our current Catalyst process, we have to bundle up all parts of a proposal together when we have this massive distributed network of people that have different skill sets, people that want to engage at different levels in different ways. And could we maybe play around with, could we start to build engines around, dedicated at identifying problems, identifying solutions, identifying teams, and doing that separately, such that, any idea that makes it to later stages have already been vetted on, prioritized, and agreed upon. There's already been consensus built around, yes, this is a problem worth executing on. We want to explore this, versus having everybody coming in and having a problem, a solution, a team that may or may not be addressing something that the community feels is important. And so kind of the main underlying kind of hypothesis here is, by deconstructing the proposal process a little bit, we might be able to find consensus at every step of the way and co-create these solutions together, such that there's buy-in, we are incorporating different voices, and just exploring different ways that we can kind of collaborate and work together in the Catalyst process.
So you're pointing to a dynamic that exists in the community today where it's all about individual people throwing everything that they can think of about their problem at the wall, and then waiting around to hear what the very long process is telling them. And a 6-week feedback cycle, even if it's only 6 weeks, is way too long. Collaborating to develop the problem and develop it into an actionable proposal, a recommended proposal, feels so much more like community, and feels so much more like distributed progress, and it's a fundamental difference between the way the world has worked and the way the world can work.
Yeah, I'm thinking we need to, like, maybe, as far as like guiding proposals onto the right direction, maybe set a community vision of what we're trying to achieve past what IOG and Cardano has set, that we're trying to reach out. Because, I mean, they built everything this far. It's up to us to build everything out, into the rest of the world. So if we kind of set a set of goals, people can figure out how to attain them through different proposal mechanisms. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, Randall, I think you summarized so well, as far as, it's just kind of bringing a different mindset and how do we be more collaborative at the outset. And Drake, I think you're spot on that doing something like this can start to be the way that the community bands together to set out a vision that we can all be bought in on, and not just kind of individual people running with their own pet ideas. And, I would love to see if, we can get a mechanism like this up and running. Could there just be like a bulletin board of, hey, these are problems that, 50 people in the community have worked on together, have agreed on, have built consensus that we know there's a problem here. And now, if somebody wants to take some of those seeds of an idea, that kernel, and run with it and execute, there's these very well-defined paths for, hey, I've got some skill set, but maybe not those ideas, but oh, awesome, I know what the community wants to see, I know what they want to do, I can run with this, I can execute it. We can build funding mechanisms that can reward people for not only the execution, but also that upfront work to identify those problems, do that research, set that vision, and again, just kind of continuing to break down the process into something like fractal governance is a term that I like to use. Dor threw it out there once, and I thought it was just like so fitting that maybe Catalyst is this initial monolith, this megalithic structure, but how do we start to break down and have little fractal processes that address small things? And we start to build expertise, build those more well-defined paths to just plug in wherever you are, whether you've been in Catalyst for 6 months, day one, or if you just came in today. How do you start plugging in and actually executing right now? And yeah,
hi, I'm me. How can I help?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what's beautiful about that is that it's the problem, right? Like, the problem is creates this. Everybody's coming into the space with the problem that they have in their mind.
You're breaking up a lot, Chad. You may have to.
Yeah, Chad, you're cutting in and out a lot there, but I think what I heard there is kind of alluding to the dynamic that Randall mentioned, that everybody's coming in with their own perception of what the problem is, and what we're attempting to define here is a way for people to kind of amalgamate those problems together and validate them and check. And maybe someone that came to the community, maybe something's already been addressed, or there's active work going on. How do we cut down those redundancies? How do we increase our coordination? Love it. So I am gonna push us along a little bit. I'll be the facilitator. just in the interest of time, again, want to kind of test out some of these ideas with the structure. How, I love all the high level conversations, but again, want to try to have this one a little bit more aimed at kind of making sure we can hit some outcomes by the end of this whole thing. But before we move on, anyone want to throw out any final comments or thoughts on just the idea of collaborative problem sensing? Awesome. And then really quick, Randall, I know you mentioned that you've got the recording going. Do we have the screen share? Should I share my screen on here?
I'm actually
also?
capturing the screen share too.
Fantastic. Or there's
no need.
You are
I'm
capturing.
That.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So won't spend too much time on this one because I think we're pretty well aligned. But again, hitting that third objective for our session of maybe providing some instructive guidance for someone that might be new to the community. Just a quick, brief on what makes for a great problem statement. How should we be thinking about problem statements, not only for the exercise we're about to embark on together, but also just as a community? How do we start to find those consistent standards and have that alignment? So drawing on the proposer guide, some of the things that were called out there by, I believe Dora and team put this initial documentation together. Structure of the problem statement might include the desired outcome. What's kind of the world that you want to see? And then related to that, what's the blocking problem? So what's stopping us from realizing or seeing that desired outcome? And then the cost of the problem. What's actually at stake? How big is that problem? And what does it amount to, either in terms of economics and financial, but also maybe there's a human, social, environmental impact. I think those are all things that should be considered when we're talking about costs. That should be defined very broadly. And then evidence, how can you say that that's actually a problem? What data is there to support that? So that's one way to maybe think about a problem statement. So that's from the proposer guide. Another good way to think about the problem statement is from the lens of how is this actually going to be evaluated in the Catalyst process. So what's a CA going to think when they look at the proposal? So first of all, the problem statement is the very first thing that somebody sees in idea scale. So right there, it's so important because it's your hook. It's what anybody is going to see first before they actually click into it and see your more full ideas. And so not only are you outlining kind of the problem, but also this is the hook for your proposal. That's a bit of an aside, but I think the connection with how CAs are rating proposals. So proposals are rated on three dimensions: impact, feasibility, and auditability. Now feasibility and auditability, I think, are mostly aimed at kind of evaluating the solution, evaluating the specifics of the project, what's your definition of success, how are you actually going to use the funds. But I think that the impact is closely related to the problem statement, right? If you're the problem you identify is going to be directly related to how much of an impact is it actually going to make. If you're not solving the right problem, you can have a perfectly feasible, perfectly auditable solution, but if you don't identify the right problem to solve, the impact's not going to be there. And so another way to think about your problem statement is kind of what's the impact that it's going to have. And when a CA is looking at a proposal and gauging impact, these are some of the things that they think about as far as it's a problem that actually needs to be solved, or the community would benefit from the proposal, or perhaps there's an ability to scale to address future challenges. So maybe the initial problem could be limited in scope, could be kind of local, personal, but maybe it has the potential to very easily scale up. So maybe these are some of the things as far as impact. Randall, you want to jump in there?
There's an analogy in business of making the business case for a proposal or an initiative, and this is very much along that line, it seems like, but maybe a little bit more general of not just ROI, but more generally, what's the case for this? And then you mentioned about auditability. I think of that in terms of transparency, or being able to see that the results are achievable or being achieved as part of the plan for the proposal. Does that align with the way you understand auditability?
Yeah, I think transparency and plan are definitely related to the auditability. And I could totally see, depending on how this session goes, if we like the way that this goes, I can imagine kind of designing similar sessions where maybe we do have things that are aimed at. So maybe this is kind of the impact piece, but how do we have workshops around creating a highly auditable proposal, with some kind of community standards or guidelines around what does the community want to see in terms of transparency? What are the pieces of a good plan? Because I think these are a lot of things that are lacking in idea scale right now. I mean, how many times have we all seen a copied and pasted comment on a proposal that says, "Hey, this is like a great kernel of an idea, but I'd love to have, I want to see these 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 things in your proposal before I can actually give like real feedback." To me, that's silly. We need to have that structure and those processes built in a little bit more. And going through these kinds of
sounds very transactional.
It does sound very transactional, but what I never want to lose sight of is kind of the interactive, collaborative aspect of what we're trying to bring together in the swarm. And so I could see a path where kind of the things we're describing here could be transactional, and I think that in some cases, maybe that's good. Maybe there is kind of a layer of engagement where people want to be transactional, but always leaving the door open and having the majority of discussions be in an open and collaborative space. At least, that would be my kind of knee-jerk reaction. You want to respond to that, Randall?
I agree with you. I mean, fundamentally, there are times when we need to go and do our thing, but at the same time, fundamentally, there's collaboration. It creates such richness of opportunity.
Absolutely. And on that note, let's actually get into the collaborative piece of this. So we've gotten some alignment on just collaborative problem sensing in general. Sounds like we're in agreement that there could be some benefit in exploring something like that. We've got some alignment on just what is a problem statement, what are we actually going to be talking about and thinking about here. So we're actually going to do some problem sensing, some problem statement identification together. But just to help us narrow our focus a little bit, I'd like to have us do just a quick voting round on the fund category that we'd like to focus on for this exercise. We've only got 5 people on here. If you want to just shout it out, we can just have a quick discussion. Where you might want to focus. We've also got some voting balls on here if you wanted to kind of move these balls around, indicate your vote.
We're doing our best.
Could go either way. But anyone want to just throw out a suggestion for us? What fund category do you have on your mind? Where do you see that we have a lot of unaddressed problems and maybe lots of opportunities?
Marketing. Let's talk about identifying or verifying a individual decentralized in a decentralized way.
So just like the topic of identity?
Or just the topic of how to get around the problem of never centralizing identity.
Which category do we see a lot of overlapping proposals?
That's another interesting way to go about it. So yeah, taking those two. So maybe where can we have some ties to identity? Sounds like that's a big topic on Chad's mind. But Randall, I also like your thought of part of the value of doing something like collaborative problem sensing could be to help to decrease redundancies across proposals and find opportunities for collaboration. So maybe with those two criteria, what's a good category we might zoom in on? One that has some connections with identity and one where we see a lot of overlapping problem spaces.
Sorry, I just got the Miro up. Give me a second.
So just looking at pure volume, far and away with 104 proposals, next largest category, having only 50 proposals is dApps and integrations. I think it might be safe to say that identity could have some time with dApps and integrations. We could probably hit that. And I think just by the number of sheer volume, we're bound to have some overlapping there. I wonder, what do we think? dApps and integrations? We want to put a flag down and say that's where we're going to focus for today?
Yeah,
Beautiful.
That sounds good.
Alrighty, just throw a little red ball in here just to remind us that's what we were talking about. Cool. So we've got about 23 minutes left on the timer here, so I think we're making pretty good pace. So I'll outline the rest of the activity here. So we're going to do a little bit of divergent and convergent thinking together. So we're first going to take a few minutes to just do some solo brainstorming. We're all going to come in here. If you found a seat on the circle in the Miro board, everybody has 4 stickies next to their name. I'm going to ask that you double click on that sticky note that says problem statement, and just brain dump. Throw a couple problem statements in here. This is where we're just going to try to throw as much at the wall as we can, start to collect that ball of clay, and we're just going to do some solo ideating. Where do you see there being some problems, and what are those problem statements for you? Again, kind of anchoring on some of the definitions of a problem statement we talked about a little while ago. From there, we're going to go into some collaborative refinement. We're going to do some kind of trading of ideas, where we're going to go through some rebuttals and some objections to the different problem statements, trying to maybe challenge each other in our thinking, and then do another round of kind of responding to those objections, rebutting those objections, and collaboratively talking through and trying to refine these problems. And then at the end, we'll kind of think about what are those maybe 1 to 3 real wicked problems that we've identified, maybe combining some, maybe rallying around 1 or 2 that others made, and from there, maybe starting to get into some opportunity identification, thinking about use cases. Not sure we'll get that far, but that's kind of high level, broad strokes, what we're going to be doing over the next 20 minutes or so. Any questions before we jump into that first part?
This makes good sense from a process perspective. My only issue is like even just scoping it to dApps and identity. I'm left a little bit disconnected from like what we would do that's tangible. But I love this approach on a process targeted at producing an outcome.
Yeah, I really appreciate that feedback, Randall. And to be honest, that's probably the primary intent here is playing around with this kind of structure. And as you say that, I'll be honest, when I actually start to think, okay, dApps and integrations, that's out of my wheelhouse. I am not a dApps guy. I've been more in kind of the value onboarding and distributed decision-making space. And so that's fair. I might not have a ton of problems to be able to contribute here. So you know what? We've only got 4 people. We don't have, if we had, 12 people in this room, we probably needed that focus. But with 4, maybe we could be a little bit more open-ended, and just everybody just start throwing some problem statements. Let's remove that structure. Sounds like it might be a little bit too heavy for this small group. So everybody, let's just take the next. Let's start with 4 minutes. And we'll check in after that. So just 4 minutes. Just start grabbing as many stickies as you want. If you fill up those 4, if you really quickly get through those 4 and you're pretty high level, see if you can't start to refine that problem statement according to the standards that are in Catalyst Idea Scale. Can you try to succinctly hit it in 140 characters? Can you hit that desired outcome, the blocking problem? Do you have any stats on hand? Any personal experiences that you can throw in to kind of beef up the emotional impact of these problem statements? So let's check in at the 16-minute mark. Just going to do a little bit of solo brainstorming here, just kind of getting as many ideas down as we can. All right, we're just past the 16-minute mark, so wrap up your final thought here, and we will come back as a group. All right, let's see. Looks like everybody is just about done writing. So what we're going to do now is I can do this after the session, just in the interest of keeping us moving. So we should have about 15, 16 problem statements across all of us. But what I'd like us to do, having gone through just that solo ideation, I want everybody to pick out their personal favorite, of the four that you jotted down. Maybe, should have gone with your gut. Maybe that first one you wrote down is the best, or maybe you needed a little bit to get rolling. It was that last one that was the best. But based on whatever criteria you might have, I want everybody to grab their personal favorite of the problem statement that they wrote down and highlight it as green, please. So you can do that by clicking on the sticky note and then changing the color. Change it to green. Awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 4 green sticky notes and we're going to throw it down into the frame below, down in the personal favorites. So now we're going to do some collaborative refinement of these ideas. So, oh, I already got you, Drake, or Randall, whoever's bringing those down there.
Oh, you copied. I see.
Yeah, I just copied. All good. And I picked the wrong green. Cool. So now what we're going to do is everybody is going to rotate and we're going to take ownership of somebody else's idea that they put. And we're going to try to express why this is not a good problem statement. Is there maybe some missing information? Do we agree with do we maybe not agree with the identification? Do we think that there's not a problem? But we're going to all grab a problem statement that is not ours and just write down an objection. So we'll put 2 minutes down, and I just want us to brain dump, whether it's multiple sticky notes, a single sticky note. I want you to pick somebody else's sticky note and basically pick it apart in a helpful and constructive way. So 2 minutes on the clock. We'll check in around the 11:15 mark. I want everybody to pick a sticky that's not yours and basically
I didn't know
write
there were
down.
supposed to be challenge statements like for a proposal. I was just thinking challenges. Sorry.
Hey, all good, man. Just in the interest of knowing what we're responding to here, I want to give us just like a quick, 15 seconds. What do you mean by God protocol?
It is a theoretical protocol that would allow for different systems of transaction to ineffably trust each other. It wasn't possible before artificial intelligence.
Cool. All right, awesome. So everybody, looks like Chad has the blockchain one over here. Mine is in the bottom left. I'm going to grab what should reputation be weighted against. I'm going to grab that problem statement. So does everybody have their problem statement that they're going to write some objections to?
Yep.
All right, awesome. So yeah, 2 minutes on the clock. So around the 10:15 mark, we'll check in. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This isn't about ganging up on people. This is about exploring the edges of problems.
Just as a reminder, if you want to drop a sticky note, you can highlight any sticky note, Control-C, Control-V will give you a good old copy and paste, and then you can double click on the text to overwrite and start typing in your own comments. So about a minute left. Keep on, you
I
know,
want to
giving
write
your
nice
thoughts.
things too.
It is constructive feedback, and Randall, actually, I think part of the value in exercise like this is it does force you, even if you agree with the problem statement, I want you to stretch and do your best to, you know, how could it be improved? What gaps are there? You know, for this phase of it, doing your very best to identify where there could be shortcomings. Even if you 100% agree with the problem, we're forcing you to think outside of your own comfort zone in that case. All right, just a little bit more time to wrap up your current thought. Again, no right answers here, all an experiment, just playing around with new processes. All right, awesome. So we've got an objection to each of the problem statements so far. So we're not going to debrief quite yet. We're going to do another rotation. So everybody, we're going to do another switch. I want you to grab a problem and objection that is not, don't get your own problem statement. We're gonna rotate it again, and now what we're all going to be tasked with is you are taking ownership, and now you are responsible for rebutting that objection. You are going to someone else's problem statement that somebody else has raised an objection for. And now what we're going to do is we're going to save that initial idea. We're going to respond to that objection and try to highlight why that problem is actually valid, perhaps expanding on it or somehow responding to that objection. So we're going to save that problem statement. So everyone try to find a problem statement that you did not write that has an objection that you did not write. So I'm going to grab this top left one.
I am still having a problem with this sticky note, man. I can't get it to copy. Do I just right click it and hit copy, or?
If you just left click, single select, and then Control V, Control C, or Control V. But I'll just drop some empty sticky notes around, so we're not worrying about trying to learn how to drive Miro on the fly now.
I did it right as you gave it to me.
Cool.
Thank you. I got 2 now.
All right. So another 2 minutes or so on this.
It takes a lot of work to empathize with the problem finding that I'm encountering.
Yeah, I'm also struggling with it. I mean, just like talking through my own thought process right now, I'm trying to make sense of the original problem statement and kind of understand that by itself, and then I'm trying to make the connection to the objection, and then the one more step to try to save it. And so I'm not even at the point of trying to come up with rebuttals yet. I'm still just trying to understand kind of the set of ideas that are here right now. All right, let's finish up that last thought, and then we'll check in here. So I don't know about you guys, but I really struggle with this exercise. And I definitely want to get into debriefing kind of, how we felt going through this, what, want to absolutely get feedback on this. But first, let's just kind of wrap up the exercise together. So yeah, I see we finished our last thought. So let's do a quick around the room. I think, I guess I'll actually ignore what I just said, jumping ahead a little bit to the feedback. I think one thing that I might be noticing here is that we could perhaps have a little bit more structure on kind of framing each step here. I think it was difficult to, in this very rapid fire kind of environment, be able to identify, first, like, think of a problem, have it structured in such a way that someone else can very easily interpret it, and then be able to raise an objection to it. I think it was a little bit too open-ended, and personally, I really struggled to kind of make the connections here. But I want to at the end get feedback on maybe what we could do to kind of improve the process. But I'll just share on my little bucket here. So I have the problem statement. Blockchain is not the primary scope for most applications people would find meaningful. Blockchaining can be an enabling element, though. The way that I interpreted this was that that people might be coming in with an assumption that blockchain is the end-all be-all. Every solution needs to be on a blockchain, when maybe that's not really appropriate. And maybe part of the problem is that we need to be able to find kind of when blockchain is appropriate. And then I think again, with people just like maybe needing a little bit more kind of guidance and guide rails on this. I think that the objection here, we were actually trying to build up and improve upon the problem, which is perfect, but broke my brain a little bit.
Right? Things backwards, and I apologize. I did the first part last, or from what the initial description was, I was thinking that we were objecting with, yeah. So I apologize for that. I did kind of
No,
go
all
back.
good. No apologies needed. I mean,
We're doing
this
our
is
best.
this is an experiment. I wanted to see where things break so we could just improve this for next time. So yeah, definitely don't apologize for anything. But some of the objections or kind of expansions that were added here, the space did not have a fundamentals course that is aimed at the new mind and the computer science broader community. So how do we just have that education, and then maybe how do we have that Bill Nye type person to help people discover their love for blockchain and these different types of solutions. And that was what I chose to anchor on for my rebuttal, was to say that, the community doesn't need its own Bill Nye. We just need more discussions, and we need better alignment around identifying when blockchain is an appropriate enabler, which solutions actually merit having some connection with the blockchain and kind of fit in Catalyst. And then, just like trying to respond to the other thing I said, this should be a shared responsibility over having a Bill Nye type, and that was more just trying to, like directly respond to that one. Not even sure I totally agree with that. But yeah, that was my
Nice.
kind of interpretation here. But whoever, I think Chad, you had this initial problem statement, or did you have the problem statement or the first objections there, Chad?
I had the first
I had the
objections
problem
there.
statement about blockchain
Yeah.
just being an element of an application, and lots of applications are really useful on blockchain, but it's only 10% of it that's actually on chain.
Gotcha. So yeah, I guess any takeaways from my debrief there? I guess any surprises either in the objection that Chad raised and the rebuttal that I gave on my understanding of kind of the initial thing. I guess any takeaways and just having gone through this process together. Anything interesting or surprising?
Yeah, I think what's interesting about the process here is that we're exploring the edges of the thought and really seeing what the landscape is, and exposing all that leads us to some more in the way of shared understanding. And maybe we decide that some of the things we typed here we just disagree with and that we think they're wrong, and that's part of a good process too.
Awesome.
Yeah, it helps us to explore other points of view. It gives us a chance to, even though I may not necessarily agree with some of these statements, I can understand why people are saying them about the God protocol.
That's super cool to hear you share that, Drake. Because that part of what I like about this kind of format so much is it does force you to put yourself in the shoes. What are they actually responding to? And so you might be in a position where you have to object to something that you agree with, or you have to save something that you disagree with. So I guess maybe to just like keep the chain going here, Randall, since we just went through your problem statement, do you want to share the final kind of grouping that you ended up with for that rebuttal?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the ask.
Which sticky group did you end up on? Where did you have the last word on a sticky?
The gold sticky, or time pressure and community seem to be conflicting. And I think on this one it was the same kind of situation. Well, maybe a similar kind of situation. The problem statement being catalyst to the community. How might we remove the competitive aspect to be more collaborative? And the note was about how the note about scientists and the atomic race seemed to be focused on the idea of time pressure and competitiveness, and the way I phrased the gold response was in two parts, recognizing the conflict between time pressure and community, and then part B, that in a community scenario it feels like a personal opportunity feels like it's getting lost, or I'm missing the chance to gain safety from this idea that I had it.
Yes. I'm the one that posed the question on the how did the scientists, because that's the thing, right? Everybody that's coming into this space that isn't fully trusting, they're holding their briefcase at their chest, handcuffed to themselves, and they won't let anybody see it.
Mm-hmm.
And so what how did the scientists? I just kind of brought that up as a broader thought, idea for everybody to chew on. Of how did they get along? At that time, it's the exact same conversation that we're in right now, because whoever gets this technology locked down and packaged and able to get sold to the world on the broader scope, they're the ones that win.
Winner
And
takes
so
all.
in the atomic age, it was whoever got the bomb first. It was whoever
Everybody
got that.
wins.
Yeah. And so, in that idea, when there is a time crunch, so to speak, and the time crunch is, multifaceted. Some people are waiting to get paid. Some people are waiting to see the entire world get liberated and free. There are many, broad and short scopes to all of it. So when the time is ticking and the only problem you have is to save the entire world from destruction, how do you get along? How do you get along?
No, so I had this problem statement, and I love how much you were able to pack into like that short question, right? Because it does kind of raise all those other things. And I think that very last point you made of, when kind of the clock is ticking and something is like absolutely time sensitive and critical, collaborative decision making does take longer, and there could be use cases when, collaboration just doesn't make sense. I think that's like an absolutely valid objection, and something that if I were writing this problem statement trying to make a solution, I would absolutely need to consider that objection and try to have a way to address it within the way I'm framing that solution. So that's like a super, super valid criticism. And if I were going to write a proposal with this problem statement, something that I would need to address. And I think, Randall, you hit on that in your gold sticky, that that is a problem that someone might react to and would feel, and is something that, maybe in pursuing a problem statement like that, we would need to have a way of how do you restore that kind of personal opportunity and that feeling of ownership while being in a collaborative kind of way. I think that's a pretty wicked problem. So that's cool for me to see how that evolved through the different ideas you guys brought.
And a meta comment here is that during this process, I feel like just having one person at a time doing these activities on one note at a time might be less helpful than developing one at a time as a group, and like working through like what's the disagreement, what's the agreement, how do we understand the sticky to begin with, and then maybe start to tear it down, or find ways that people could tear it down, and find ways to and maybe do it in rounds would be an interesting way to develop more shared understanding earlier in the sequence.
Yeah, dissection is usually done one entity at a time. Usually.
Yeah, excellent feedback. How do we kind of build the shared understanding throughout this entire pipeline, rather than just having this big kind of messy process in the middle, and we're all kind of answering and talking past each other a little bit when we don't have that shared understanding. Awesome. So Drake or Chad, one of you guys want to share your kind of cluster of stickies, and
I'll
share.
go next.
Yeah.
The original argument is, what should reputation be weighed against? Obviously, some people think our current system is functional, and I'm asking, in support of this, is our current system working? And I'm saying no, it's not. Here, the argument is, what's at stake with our reputation? Which is kind of an argument for this, but what is really at stake is what is sacred and the sanctity of our species. And that's why, and to know somebody is why we should weigh their reputation. And I don't know, if you have a rebuttal for it, say it. I don't care.
Yeah, so I had the objections to that sticky, and I really struggled, because I absolutely agree that we need a reputation system, and so I kind of had to stretch to try to have those objections, and I tried to come at it from a place of maybe, if I were to see this problem statement in idea scale, how would I want to see it elaborated? but this was a tough one for me because I agree with all of your gold stickies, Drake, but I had to kind of fill in the gap of maybe why would someone disagree with having a reputation system. So Chad, I think you had that initial problem statement. Any surprises or takeaways having seen us go through the exercise?
No, just the dismal notion that this is a very, very high level human mind problem that no one set of neurons has solved for yet. And so it's still in the supercomputer. It's still being crunched on. My whole thing is ultimately how do we stay out of the dystopian cyberpunk type thing where everybody's genetic code is just tracked down, because obviously
love and love.
If you care nothing about anything, then you would be able to if you didn't care about any of that stuff, then you would be able to easily have the genetic code being everybody's barcode, essentially. But when you get into the economical aspects and just all the stuff that comes with that, the whole pie is not worth it just for that slice of the pie. But how do we allow for reputation and how reputation connects to the individual, and somebody can't game the system or anything like that, exploit it, but not create the dystopian future we all fear. Essentially.
Awesome, yeah. And so if
nobody wants that dystopian future, that's a future past, I promise. We got good things coming, baby.
Yeah, so Chad, if you were going to try to throw this as an idea scale proposal for your problem statement, maybe some of like I think in the proposer guide it talks about what's the world that you want to see and what are some of the blockers, maybe kind of the inverse of that, and maybe another approach to take with the problem statement is describing that potential negative future, what as part of what's at stake could be that dystopian thing. So awesome, yeah. Chad, you want to walk us through the your final stickies on that last grouping here from Drake's original problem statement?
So the reason that I was going to that direction was because I think that this notion that there's going to be a God protocol, or there's going to be an ultimate highest compiler, ultimate universal thing, I don't think that's something that is going to be coded like AOL or Yahoo. I think it is going to be something that comes together, such as maybe more Wikipedia or Reddit or something else, where I'm somebody that believes in looking at DNA and all of that stuff, and realizing that the individual amino acids in a DNA structure, they hold 2 bits per thing. So natural evolution has made itself so efficient that they've been able to essentially take 1 biological bit and have it represent 2 digital bits, which is beautiful. And so, I'm totally on board with the whole idea that math is connecting of all existence. I'm totally on board that given enough resources and power and time, that we would be able to get very, very close to discovering the handwriting of God. But I believe that is just that. It's just like a fundamental force of nature or an element on our periodic table. Humans ultimately were not the ones that brought it into existence. We just discovered it. And I think the God protocol is going to be an achievement in this game of life at the end. Maybe it's the end. Maybe, there's more DLC after that. But I think that
sounds like you're talking about emergence versus design.
Correct. When it comes to this ultimate thing of there is going to be this short, what everybody talks about, the theory of everything, where there's this short, cute little equation that you can put in anything and it equals everything. And I believe
this is purely a transactional thing. It's based on digital transactions. It was written by Nick Savos in '99.
Oh, well, then I didn't understand that it was like a branding term. I thought we were just talking about the.
It's a transactional theoretical thing that has never occurred, because you've never been able to have somebody that was absolutely acting purely on their own as a verifier, but AI can do that. If you, there's a link there, you can click on the link and see Nick's work.
So in that God protocol, essentially AI's orchestration of
Is everybody's trusted third party, because the AI works for nobody.
Except for, well,
except for nobody. We're gonna set it as its own entity. No human hands involved, baby.
No, there is an asterisk involved with that, but that's a deeper discussion.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't get into that one on this call. Maybe for a future forum session.
Sure. I would love to talk more about it. I have a lot to say about that.
Yeah, definitely. But want to be mindful of people's time on a Saturday. So to bring this home, so we've got 4 problem statements here, and through this exercise, we've kind of collaboratively refined them a little bit. So can we maybe find some consensus around, if we were to vote on one set of sticky notes to say, this is what we've collaboratively identified, we've built some consensus, this is worth having the community kind of direct some focused attention on.
Trust.
Could we? Well, let's keep it. Let's keep it in the activity. I agree with you, Drake. I agree with you. And so in that vein, maybe your vote would be on the reputation problem statements. I think that's what I would lean toward as well.
Or the reputation is both a trust thing, because that's a financial trust, and this is like kind of a social trust.
So yeah, can we maybe find some consensus? So sounds like Drake could go either way on both of the right ones. I'll take a stand and say I'm for the reputation system. Randall or Chad, want to weigh in?
I mean, reputation, or I liked yours, Mike, about the community and everything. I think that really is it. It's touching on something that there needs to be something bootstrapped to the whole Cardano ecosystem as a whole, that's getting in other people than just people that already understand what Python and coding and all. We need people that are just understanding, like, hey, I want to type on a computer all day, and see how we can bring those people in.
Cool. So it sounds like we've got alignment on maybe the bottom half here. So we've got the kind of community and how do we try to be more collaborative while retaining some aspect of personal ownership. And then we've got the reputation and kind of having that built-in social currency and trustlessness. Let's see. So I think we're split 2-2. Who wants to, anyone want to change their thinking? I'm gonna. Just for the sake of argument here, I'm gonna stay strong on that reputation.
It was 3-2.
Oh, was it 3-2? All right,
yeah,
which one we got here, Randall? Reputation. All right, looks like reputation is the winner. So we're gonna throw this into our consensus little frame here, and after the fact, I'll go back and I'll grab all of the problem statements we came up with and throw them into this brainstorm.
I'm still gonna say they all can boil down to trust if you look at it right.
Yeah, I'm with you. It definitely could. And if we were to go through this again, maybe as part of like an iterative process, if the 4 of us were kind of to repeat this thing, maybe we'd have all of our problem statements kind of anchored on the idea of trust and kind of going from there. Or maybe as we start to think about use cases and solutions, trust is one of the kind of primary things we were to anchor on. But that brings us to the end, I think, for now, if you guys want to hang around and keep working on, if we were to take this problem statement, start expanding that out, what are like use cases or possible opportunities, I think, well, for now, we'll cut it off there. But would love to hear any feedback. How was this thing? Was it too much structure? Was it too little? What did you like?
I think it was right on. I just want to thank everybody for participating. One way or another, we're going to figure it out, right?
Yeah, this was super fun.
We have a workspace here for that we can interact with, and I felt like we wasted time talking about consensus when we could have just demonstrated it graphically.
So using like the voting mechanism or something.
Net criticism, it's just a small point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so let's
like
use the virtual
drag
whiteboard
my avatar
tools
to the place I was interested in.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like what we were talking about at the beginning.
I'm
with
sorry
the
about
play.
the lag on the line here.
Oh, can you hear me? Hello.
Yep.
Oh, okay. That the what we were talking about the beginning with the clay, that it's like maybe having this mural board set up to have a little bit more interactivity, invitingness, so that and then because I like the idea that we all culminate with our thoughts together, maybe if we did something similar like to these sticky notes, but instead everybody has their own building blocks. We go through an exercise, and then at the end, everybody gets to zoom out to the 30,000-foot level and give a description of what they're seeing and how they're feeling leaving versus entering and such.
Very nice. So really quick, if you guys wouldn't mind humoring me really quick, I actually wanted to also take this opportunity to demo a tool that I've been plugging a little bit. Would love to see get used a little bit more. But has anybody here used Menti before? Mentimeter?
No.
So it's basically just an interactive poll. So if you go over into this far right panel, the exit survey and feedback at the top, there's this go to menti.com and use this code. You can also click the upper right corner of this little thing. There's a hyperlink. So if you want to do either one of those things, it'll pull up a screen that's just going to ask you 2 quick questions. So I'll present my screen in here really quick. So first of all, thanks so much for participating, and hoping you guys can provide some quick anonymous feedback. So this isn't going to be tied to names or anything, but just on a 1 to 5 scale, want to, again, kind of play around with this tool, see if there could be value here, but also, get some feedback. So how would you rate your experience in today's session on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being, you hated it, 5 being you loved it. In the middle, we've got not my favorite, it was all right, pretty good. And so again, if you go into that Mentimeter link, you can go in there and make your selection, and it'll show up here on the screen.
Beautiful.
Looks like we got 1 vote in. All right, won't put anybody on the spot. If you don't want to come in here, give feedback, totally okay. Again, only 3 people, small sample size, more just looking to play around with the tool for now. But also I'll say thank you. I'm glad to see that, folks enjoyed the experience today. So that's on kind of the experience side. How was it to actually participate in the session? Let's also think about the outcome. How would you rate the quality of our outcome on a scale of 1 to 5? So, on the low end of the spectrum, what outcome? We didn't accomplish anything. Or maybe you're not impressed, you'd rather just work alone. Or maybe, this was probably on par with the typical proposal, that problem statement we came to at the end, about average. Or, hey, maybe there's something to this collaboration thing. Or, wow, collective genius unleashed. On a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate the outcome that we arrived
Please wait
at
for the
the
presenter to show the next slide.
Oh, do I have to do that? You guys present? That's what you're seeing when it's not giving you the option to have that second question.
Correct. I answered 1 question. It won't let me go to the next one yet.
Okay, so that just might be something that I have to play around with, and figure out how to work this tool better. But if you guys, just shout it out, 1 to 5. How do you guys think? Was this a useful activity? Obviously, I think lots of room for improvement. If you guys don't mind hanging around for more just kind of open-ended feedback after this, but if you had to put a number on it, and being, be hard. How was the outcome here?
3.5.
I think it would have been better if we had more people. We just, but it is never a net negative. We always make some progress in it, right?
Cool. So probably about that 3 on
I felt
par
like
with the average proposal.
We were kind of having a toy problem scenario, and so I don't think we were necessarily driving to action, but it was just as much a really good activity to understand it and develop a framework for thinking and deciding on things and do we have a lot of stake in this decision? Not particularly.
Cool.
But it's
So
good
it sounds like
exercise regardless, and long term,
Right.
yeah.
cool.
Well,
So
and
maybe
that's the
if we
thing.
kind of, sorry, go ahead, Chad. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and that's the thing is like how much of this space is a playground, and how much of this space is we got to come up with a formula at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and maybe the idea is that everybody is so stressed out on their own tangents when they come into this space, they're able to stay focused. And it's not like the regular playground, where it's new ideas and stuff, but you're able to be a little bit more artistic and conceptualizing with your ideas, and maybe um, try to step back from the equation and you know do something else.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So I think what I'm hearing is that we could maybe think about rating the outcome on two levels. We were kind of working at both a meta and a tactical level here, where maybe we would say that in terms of trying to create more structure, exploring different frameworks and processes, maybe our outcome was pretty solid. But if we think about, okay, very tactically, did we come up with like an actionable, high quality problem statement? Maybe not. Is that a fair assessment of kind of our outcomes today? It's maybe at these two different levels.
I mean, maybe just today, but to think that what we just
Mm-hmm.
it's no worry. No, I was just saying, to have the idea that a tactical idea may not come out of it is absurd. There's completely room for amazing things to pop into existence right now. But I mean, at this time, all of our minds are crunching the hashes so that we can mine our own ideas, right?
Hello, everyone.
Hey, what's going on, Phil?
I think the other breakouts are closing
just
up,
said
and
that
we're going to
should
gather in the main room for a big IOG thank you experiment. If anyone wants to join us.
I had just been saying that if we were working on a really specific tactical problem, that this process would be really useful. And unfortunately, my recording capture wasn't quite working right at that moment.
But you are currently muted. So awesome. Yeah, we'll stop it there. But everyone.